I'm Johnny Massacre and welcome to my channel. The news don't care about black people. Also, Sweden's C-word strategy, and finally, vintage, amazing video game music from, well, I'll tell you later. All that and more on tonight's Johnny Massacre show. So, wow, you're getting 2 shows in 2 days. Don't I just spoil you rotten? Well, the news don't care about black people. So if you tuned into yesterday's show, we talked about the death of Mr. Floyd and everything that came with that and how that's been politicized. And there's been a bit more news on that front, and I've thought about it a little more. So let's talk about it. Since America is burning and there's riots all over America, me being in Japan, nobody riots out here. They don't riot. People toe the line. So we don't have to deal with that. Anyways, the news don't care about black people. They really don't. And I'm going to tell you why. So basically, let me tell you what's going on post the death of this black dude. So protests are now breaking out all over America, miles away from when the incident took place, where Mr. Floyd was killed by a white cop. So I found out that apparently this guy's crime was that he used a forged $20 bill. And there seems to be a bit of evidence from a shop where he used it. Apparently, they have CCTV footage proving that the guy didn't resist arrest, although I think there is word out there that the guy was resisting arrest. Where that came from, I don't know. It could well be the cops. But apparently, according to a news article I read, the shop that has the CCTV footage have been asked not to release it. I don't know why. It might be sinister. It might not be. But this is a little bit more information that we've got. So apparently, I think the narrative is on the side of the policeman that the suspect was resisting arrest, and there is now some information coming out that suggests this is not true, but we need to wait and all will be revealed. And apparently the crime is that he used a forged bill, which is kind of insane that he was killed for that. So there is still no evidence as of yet that this attack was racially motivated. There isn't. In a court of law, I don't think that this will come under a case of racism unless there's some evidence suggesting it was a racist attack. And other than the cop being white, there just isn't. We're going to have to wait for that. As I said on yesterday's show, if it is a racially motivated killing, then it's really it's worse, basically. It is worse. Anyways, moving on. It is, thinking about it more, it is sad that this happened. Imagine you used a forged $20 bill and you were killed for it. I used loads of forged bills when I was a kid. I remember I used to take a £5, £5 to all you beautiful Yanks out there. Mwah. And I used to forge it. I used to print it on paper and scrumple it up and put coffee on it. I don't want to implicate anyone in this, so I won't tell you who my accomplices were. But I used to do that, and it was wicked. I remember going down the pub when I was about 14 years old. It was wicked. It was in this place called Richmond, which has the highest land value in the whole of the UK. So you think that there's a lot of posh people around there, swaggering around, absolutely minted, coined, rich. But there isn't, really. There's a lot of sketchy, not sketchy, but there was fights and shit going on in Richmond because people used to come to this area from outside of Richmond. And even though it has the highest land value in the UK, it would attract people just for the bars because there were a lot of bars there. And so it was actually had a very small edge to it, a little bit of, all right, mate, what are you looking at, you cunt? So anyways, I'm digressing massively. But I used to go to a pub there and it was amazing. Imagine being 14, going to a pub, loads of girls and shit like that. I remember you used to give the forged note and then you get all the change for it and it was amazing. Imagine if I was killed for that, that would be ridiculous. So this guy being killed for a note is ridiculous. Just something that came to me now is we don't really know a lot about why he died. I read something, it might have been a heart attack or he might have suffocated, but we really have to look at the evidence. Did he die from the stress of it all? Did he die because he was being suffocated by the cop? That's all going to be very relevant when this goes to court. But I do want to say, what the fuck is wrong with this cop? Why is he doing that? Who does that? Who gets pleasure from that shit? You can't be a good person if you're doing that and the guy stole a $20 bill. Unless the guy resisted arrest and did something really fucked up, but there isn't any evidence of that yet. And so anyways, getting on to really the crux of today's show, this has been politicized. I was already telling you yesterday about how this event was politicized, and now it's getting even more politicized. And that's why the theme of this segment is the news don't care about black people. So why do the news not care about black people? Because they are using this case to push their narrative in order to get power and get people to vote for Joe Biden, basically. So, first of all, Kaepernick, that shitty NFL player who's an activist, who's a professional victim, who says the system is racist, even though he's made tens of millions of dollars off of it playing NFL. And even when he's not playing, Nike sponsored him to be this woke activist. Yeah, that guy who is taking full advantage of the American dream is saying that actually America is racist and terrible. And so he's funding these rioters. So he's literally doing this. Go and look it up online. He's offering money to people who are rioting and breaking stores and shit. And he's, as I said yesterday, he's retweeting pictures of burning police stations and stuff. This is very politicized. And it's kind of like I believe it's a holistic approach from the left where they're trying to cover all bases in order to get a left-wing president in. And left-wing politics basically comes down to three things. It comes down to abortion rights, and it comes down to intersectional politics, and it comes down to social welfare. And this really ticks the box of intersectional politics. So the whole strategy, one of the main cruxes of the left-wing strategy for Joe Biden and whoever's going to be running for president this year, is that all minorities are in trouble, white people hate minorities, police are out to kill minorities, so minorities have to vote for them. And also women, which is basically half of the population, are treated like shit because of systemic sexism. So women have to vote left as well. And if you don't agree with that, then you're a sexist or you're racist, or whatever. And so that is the strategy. It's a massive part of their strategy. And so therefore, people like Kaepernick or Copernic, whatever his fucking name is, Copernicus cunt, he's part of this holistic approach of the left where he's in sports and media and movies and Hollywood and stuff, they all kind of collaborate to uphold this narrative. And Kaepernick is basically upholding this narrative by funding these people, saying that they've been done wrong because of slavery and stuff, so it's okay to burn shit. Well, I got news for you. Burning shit and smashing shit is not going to fucking work. A normal person doesn't want to see that shit. Nobody wants that in a town near them. So this strategy is kind of crazy. I find it really ironic that Colin Kaepernick isn't affected by any of this. He's never going to be affected by rioters because he obviously has some fat mansion. And yet he's encouraging people to go out and smash shit and basically endanger their lives. So these people like Kaepernick, they're professional victims and they make all of their money being funded by the left in this holistic approach. And so, of course, he's going to say that shit. But that's going on right now. And basically what I'm trying to say is, I can't believe I have to say this, and my name is Johnny Massacre, but I like to metaphorically massacre stuff within the verbal arena, rapping, or within the DJ cutting and mixing arena, not necessarily metaphorically, unless I'm in a corner, in which case it's different. And in spite of my name being Johnny Massacre, well, I would like to say that it's not good to go out and fucking burn shit and massacre stuff, because then society will crumble. And then where the fuck am I going to DJ? So that's one of my points I want to make. And the news don't care about black people because the left like this. The left kind of like all this chaos because it's ultimately going to get rid of Donald Trump. They are happy this is happening, in my opinion. So this comes down to Marxist philosophy, and the left is always equated with socialism and welfare. As I said, welfare is one of the three central tenets of leftist modern philosophy. And any philosophy that is underpinned by kind of socialism and welfare it flirts with Marxism. And this is part of the Marxist philosophy. You are seeing it right now. It's the proletariat, which is the working class, rising up and forcibly and violently removing the established elite, the bourgeoisie or the rich people, which in this case the media is saying is Trump and big business and all this kind of stuff. So intersectional politics, as I mentioned earlier, and welfare and abortion are the main parts of leftist politics. And so this media narrative, in my opinion, where they're not calling rioters, they're calling them protesters, and celebrities are funding them to keep going, keep breaking stuff, is happening because this situation ticks two of those leftist boxes. It ticks the intersectional politics box because it's all minorities doing it, African Americans mostly, but also Antifa, white people as well. White middle class guilt does cross over into that. And it also ticks the socialism kind of welfare box because I guess the carrot on the stick is, well, look, you guys have been hard done by slavery and all that kind of stuff. So if you vote us into power, not only are we looking after the black people, intersectional politics, but we're also going to give you reparations for slavery, blah, 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 which is the welfare and socialism part of it. So that's basically what I think is going on, and what you're seeing with a lot of the media narrative, why they're actually supporting these people and making excuses for them. It shows you how the left will just do anything for power. They will even support violence and bloody revolution. From the beginning, they've been trying to get rid of Trump illegally. I think anyone who isn't biased or tribal can see that. They did the whole Russia thing, which is obviously bullshit. They'll say it's not, but it is bullshit because it carries no weight and it did nothing to Donald Trump in a court of law. Then you had the Ukraine thing, and then there have been so many attempts just to get rid of him and undermine democracy. And all through this, Madonna at the beginning said, I want to bomb the White House, right? She wants to bomb it. And you hear comedians like Kathy Griffin saying she wants to inject Trump until he's dead with some shit through a syringe. She also picked up a severed head of Donald Trump. So ironically, I think the people on the left are hypocrites, and they are actually the most crazy. They are all the things that they accuse the right of being, which is very aggressive and trying to destroy democracy. That's exactly what they're doing, and then they'll gaslight people. And that's what you're basically seeing in the media at the moment. And they obviously support this rioting and stuff. How could you possibly vote for someone who's behind that kind of stuff? It's, I certainly wouldn't. So I've got a few tweets that kind of relate to all this stuff. One of them in particular, I really wanted to show you. And it really kind of simplifies what's going on. And then I'm further going to simplify what's going on in a second. So have a look at this random tweet that I saw on Twitter. It is from Lauren Chen. I believe she was, she's basically a conservative commentator. And she said, she quoted, I burned down and looted a low-income community. What? What the fuck is wrong with you? No, it's okay. I did it because I was mad about racism. Oh, that's fine then. So that's kind of a funny tweet trying to make a parody of the current narrative. And it's funny because it's kind of true. So when you look at it like that, people burning down an entire city, if that happened, or if someone you knew was doing that, you'd say, what the fuck are you doing? And then if they said, no, but I was angry about racism, you wouldn't go, oh, okay, that's all right. So that's kind of really what I think a lot of the media is doing right now. So, yeah, and they're doing this because in the end, the support they give to these people will be in exchange for votes. So I think nobody ever got anything from a handout, by the way. People only got stuff from really hard work in making stuff. So how the fuck is breaking all this stuff going to be productive in any way? And how is reparations for these people or socialism or support really going to help them at the end of the day? I think it's all about individual responsibility, and only these people can get out of their problem. So this is the narrative going forward, okay? And simplifying that narrative, I can break it down into this. So here is the media narrative at the moment on the left, and the left is most of the media narrative because they control most of the media. The narrative is, this cop is racist, therefore all of America is racist. Donald Trump is the king of racism and a white supremacist. Taylor Swift said that the other day, proving this. The cop killing this guy is a result, therefore, of Donald Trump. The riots and civil unrest all comes because people are tired of racism and white supremacy, racist dog whistles, etc., made by Trump and the Trump administration and all of his supporters. And so the media will call these violent criminals protesters and not rioters because it makes Trump look bad in time for re-election. And this is what you're going to see. So Trump's going to be re-elected soon. I honestly think the left don't want these riots to go away, because if they don't, they can say, look, Donald Trump is a racist white supremacist and he made this happen. He made all the black people angry. So we have to vote someone else in because the country's falling apart. Do you really think that's not what they're doing? I certainly think that's what they're doing. And I think the real reason why these riots happen is because the left have been fanning the flames of racism forever. And I think you know it's true because all Democrats are obsessed with race and obsessed with intersectional politics, which, as I said, is one of the central tenets of leftist philosophy. But they've really gone overboard with it. When there were the presidential hopeful candidate debates, they all defaulted to this intersectional politics. Do you remember there was one guy who started talking about transgenderism and he said, we need to do something for the trans women or trans men. And he got trans women and men mixed up, so he didn't even know what he's talking about. But they're like robots. It's easy to see an opportunity to promote this politics because it's so simple. You know, women should be given more roles in X, Y, and Z companies, and gay people are being targeted, so we need to protect them more, and minorities need a family. I could do this all day. I could easily be a leftist politician because I know all of the talking points and they default to them. So you know that they've been highlighting race again and again and again and again, and they just don't stop it. And I think that makes people racist. I was running today and I ran past a black guy, and my immediate reaction was, oh fuck, like what should I, you know, I felt uncomfortable because for the last 5 days all I've been reading about is how black people are victims, white people hate black people, everyone's out to kill black people. So when I looked at him, I felt uncomfortable because I thought, wow, if I actually met this guy in real life, has he been influenced by all these politics? Do I need to give him special treatment? Because all the left are telling me this guy's a victim and I need to give him special treatment. And it turns black people, it's almost dehumanizing. It's like they're children or they're infantile or something like that. And that is really, really divisive. So if this incident had all come about because the video of this guy killing the cop, the video of the cop killing this guy was saying racist things, then I could kind of understand the uproar. But I think although the uproar is justified because this is obviously horrible and killing someone for using a counterfeit $20 bill is wrong, still, I think that this is all happening because of the left just fanning the flames of racism and intersectional politics the whole time. And no wonder that people are rioting now, because black people, a lot of them have been told that everyone's out to get them. White people hate you. And so when you have an incident like this, it justifies the behavior. That's how far the left have taken intersectional politics, when really the color of your skin doesn't mean you should be treated any differently. There's a really easy solution to all of this, and it's just treat everybody nicely. That's it. I've solved the problem. We don't have to go on about it all the time. Then we only have to focus on this when there are real incidents of racism with evidence. So I think that the media are doing this and calling the rioters protesters, yada, 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 because they're building up to this narrative that it's all Trump's fault because he's the king of white supremacy and everyone who votes for him is a white supremacist. And if you don't vote for Donald Trump, all the riots will stop. And you've got Antifa. Nobody's gotten rid of them. The left kisses their ass when they go around smashing people and giving them brain damage with spanners and shit when they're not living in their mum's basements. And so that's been going on for time. The left is all right with that. So therefore, they're going to be fine with these riots as well. So that is what I think is going on right now. So the whole intersectional politics thing would be comical if it wasn't so grave right now. And finally, I just want to say, I don't think a socialist system will make this any better. People will be even poorer in the end, and there won't be any luxury goods to steal if we go down the leftist route. So random thought there to end off this first segment of the show regarding why I think the news don't actually care about this dead black guy at all. And I've got a tweet here from Matt Walsh. He works for the Daily Wire, which is a very biased conservative website. So take that. You don't have to take it at face value, but I think he did make a good point. He said, I'm old enough to remember 3 weeks ago when the media were very certain that protests were dangerous and irresponsible because they would spread the virus and kill thousands. So what I take away from this is the left wanted everyone to stay at home because of coronavirus. So the coronavirus got politicized and you had to stay at home and you can't go out, and that's really bad. But now when people are looting and burning the city, because that narrative is helpful to them to get rid of Donald Trump, suddenly they forget all about coronavirus, which shows you that they're mercenaries and shows you that what they talk about half the time is not even true. So I think that tweet was pretty on the money, actually. I've seen more tweets about this. Tim Pool, he says, now it's been several days after these massive gatherings. Where are all the news stories arguing that there is a spike in COVID cases from them? It's like overnight the pandemic wasn't news anymore. And it wasn't news anymore because I guess this shows you that most of the coverage about coronavirus was a politicized thing to make Donald Trump look bad because 100,000 people have died on his watch. And they only care about the coronavirus when it's going to help their narrative and help them get rid of Donald Trump, much in the same case as this dead black guy. Like, how have we got to this level where the media is just not just lying, but just fucking up the world so badly. And they're so irrelevant now. You can get most of your news from more reliable sources. I find Joe Rogan to be about 1 million times more reliable than CNN right now. And my mate sent me a meme today with Kevin Spacey, of all people, maybe not the best choice. And it's at the top, you can see there a crowd full of people, and then Kevin Spacey saying, and just like that, COVID was gone. So when there's a better narrative that comes along, they'll just disregard the old narrative that they've been pushing and actually fucking up your life with for ages. Not because they cared about you or wanted to help you, but just because they wanted to advance their agenda. And so I could go on and on. There's more news about this, but you get the general picture. So what do you think? Do you think the news actually care about this guy? Or do you think everything is politicized these days, even the death of this poor guy who used a $20 counterfeit note? Heavy stuff, huh? So next today, Sweden's lockdown stats are quite interesting. So the C word is very politicized, as I just said. And Sweden didn't do a lockdown. They just let people go out. And I think this could be quite smart, because one of the arguments I've seen is, which is quite convincing, is that if you lock down, it stems the spread. But then when you remove the lockdown, it goes up. And after 1 year, you're going to have the same amount of deaths if you do that as if you just had no lockdown, had more deaths initially, but then it tails off, and then you're going to end up with the same amount of people dead. So a lot of people are cussing Sweden, but I found an article defending Sweden, and I just want to read a bit of it because I think it's kind of relevant. So the article's on Spiked, and it says why they hate Sweden. Sweden's civilized and open approach is an important challenge to lockdown mania. Sweden, seen from abroad at least, usually symbolizes moderation, practicality, and fairness. Think ABBA, IKEA, and social democracy. That is until the coronavirus struck. Now, you are more likely to hear Sweden described as reckless and dangerous. Its government is accused of cruelly subjecting its citizens to a deadly Darwinian experiment, where Sweden may have once been hailed as a blueprint for the social democratic left. I believe its whole government is women, pretty much. Its apparently murderous policies now make it a model for the hard right. The international media now malign this formerly inoffensive country in the kind of language usually thrown at dictatorships like Saudi Arabia rather than Scandinavia. And I've noticed that people are so aggressive against Sweden, and that just kind of proves what I said in the last article. So it's all about the narrative, and the media don't care about you or the victims or anybody. All they care about is power and having their president elected or in power. And they will politicize anything, even the coronavirus. So just be careful what you read and what you believe. The article continues. Of course, as everyone knows by now, the reason Sweden has been blacklisted is that it has steadfastly refused to implement a full lockdown. Life is by no means normal in Sweden. Gatherings of over 50 people are banned, as are visits to elderly care homes. Those who can are encouraged to work from home. Public transport use has fallen dramatically. But in contrast to the rest of Europe, bars, cafes, restaurants and businesses have remained open. Schools have stayed open for pupils under 16. There are guidelines on social distancing and hygiene, but these are not enforced by the law. Sweden's critics accuse it of pursuing a herd immunity strategy, although this is denied by the authorities. This sounds fucking amazing. Let the people do what they want and trust them. The opposite is I can't even think of the word. Authoritarian government who forces you to do whatever they want because they don't trust you to do it, which is kind of what happened in the UK to an extent. They just didn't trust the people and they made it illegal to go outside. I'd rather catch coronavirus than live in a place like that. Honestly, the article says, Sweden's critics accuse it of pursuing a herd immunity strategy, though this is denied by the authorities. So how has Sweden done? Originally, the aim of lockdown was to flatten the curve. That is, slow the spread of the virus sufficiently to avoid overwhelming hospital capacity. And that's what every country did, right? But then flatten the curve morphed into stay at home forever. This horror scenario was the key justification for the suspension of civil liberties and the decimation of our economies. But in Sweden, this has not happened. However, since the lockdowns began, the goalposts have moved. Now lockdowns are promoted as a means for reducing cases and deaths outright. And even on these dishonest new terms, Sweden's results are pretty average. Whether in terms of raw numbers or taken per capita, it currently falls below the UK, France, Italy and Spain, all of which had lockdowns. At the time of writing, just over 4,000 people have died. But apocalypse in Sweden! An Oxford University study which tracks the stringency of government responses across the world shows that it had little bearing on deaths. It finds that in terms of overall excess mortality, Sweden has suffered more deaths than it otherwise would have. There is a pandemic on after all, but in a similar proportion to lockdown Switzerland. In contrast, the UK, Spain and the Netherlands, which had lockdowns, have had extremely high excess mortality rates compared to usual. But you're not really hearing this in the media, especially from the left. Sweden has certainly had failures. People in care homes or receiving at-home care account for 3/4 of Sweden's COVID death toll. And that's something that can be managed much better and will bring these numbers down further. Tragedy all the same. We failed to protect our elderly, admitted Sweden's health minister, Lena Hallengren. There is also a worryingly disproportionate number of ethnic minorities among Sweden's COVID cases, which is partly down to the state's failure to communicate the dangers to migrant communities. Overall, Sweden may be an outlier in its approach, but it is not an outlier in terms of the consequences, and this is intolerable to the pro-lockdown hardliners. As a result, any bad-sounding news is seized on as evidence that Sweden has failed horribly, and by implication that we should think twice about relaxing our own restrictions, despite mounting efforts. For instance, last week, a Telegraph article claimed in its headline that Sweden had the highest death per capita. It was gleefully shared and retweeted, as it always is. The article itself included the important qualifier over the past 7 days rather than the course of the pandemic. The headline was later changed to reflect this. Quite why it is useful to compare deaths per capita in a week in late May, when weekly deaths across Europe are approaching pre-pandemic levels, is anybody's guess. The dubious honour of highest deaths per capita overall goes to Belgium, which had a strict lockdown which it introduced around the same time as France. To attack Belgium for its handling of the virus would invite uncomfortable questions about the effectiveness of the lockdown policy. So Sweden is attacked instead. And without risk of turning this show into a fucking 11 p.m. UK news broadcast, I'm going to stop there with the spiked article, if you don't mind very much. But I just wanted to read you that. If you're seeing stats about Sweden and you're worried about the lockdown ending, there's some interesting information in there. So to summarize the kind of full spectrum of opinion on the lockdown, which is analogous to, I guess, partisan politics in general, I Googled it. I peered into the devil's asshole that is a Google search. My mum laughed when I said that yesterday. She watched the show, and I got a range of headlines. And again, they contradict each other as you'd expect. So at the top it says Sweden's coronavirus strategy will soon be the world's. That was 2 weeks ago. Then 15 hours ago, Wired. I think Wired's a bit of a lefty publication. Sweden's coronavirus experiment has well and truly failed. Well and truly failed. Complete disaster. We'll check that in a minute. Then the Conversation AU 2 days ago said, has Australia really avoided 14,000? No, we're not talking about Australia. And at the bottom, The Guardian, hardcore left-wing, asks, has Sweden's coronavirus strategy played into the hands of the nationalists? Now, I wanted to make a meme about this. So the meme would be something like this. So let's say it was raining. There's a lot of rain. So you probably have Fox News say, rain represents an opportunity for these companies. And then you'd have someone who's more in the middle, which actually doesn't really exist, saying it's raining. And then at the bottom, it would say, The Guardian would say, the rain is racist. The Guardian will always find a way to put their ideological talking points into anything. So that was pretty funny, Guardian's take on it. But yeah, so the information on it is really, really all over the place. And I think that's pretty much all I've got. That's a bit lackluster, isn't it? But I was looking at some stuff online, and I didn't put the fucking graphs into this before I made the show. But, I mean, I can just look at it now because it's so easy to find. But if I type in, oh, no, I've got it here. So come over here. Let's look at a few stats, right? Like, how bad is it over in Sweden? Well and truly failed, says Wired, right? So look, Sweden, coronavirus cases, 40,000, deaths, 4,000. Recovered 4,931. So if we go over to UK coronavirus stats, and the UK had a hardcore lockdown and has absolutely raped their economy. Look what's happening in the UK. 273,000 confirmed cases, 40,000 deaths. Back to Sweden, 37,000 cases, 4,000 deaths. The deaths is the key figure, and most of those are from nursing homes. So if you don't lock down and you take good care of the nursing homes, that is far from a failure. And actually, they haven't completely destroyed their economy. So it's to be expected that they're going to have a high deaths per capita because they haven't had a lockdown, right? The people that have done a lockdown will have a less deaths per capita. But when they lift the lockdown, it's going to go up. It's going to go up whether you like it or not. And you can't stay in forever for obvious reasons, as I've been saying all along. So those stats really do not paint a picture of total failure in Sweden. And it just goes back to one of the main themes of today, that all of this shit you're seeing is politicized. Nothing is beyond politicization. The death of someone's death, and the death of people all around the world relating to the C word. None of these things matter in the face of the narrative. The narrative is the most important. They don't care if you live or die. They don't care if the economy disappears. All they care about is getting power. And I tell you what, newspapers and news sites are more popular than ever in these crazy times. They feed off these crises. They're going to be okay. They're going to get paid. And they're not going to be affected by all the shit that they're telling you. Don't you agree? And there's more articles. There's an article in The Telegraph, and The Telegraph was just quoted a minute ago, and it was saying Sweden could be bad. They've actually got a opposing article, and it says, coronavirus, Norway wonders if it should have been more like Sweden. Cost of lockdown sees Prime Minister raise questions about strategy. So you can't say it's a total failure. This is an official thing on the world stage. You have leaders of neighbouring countries saying, well, maybe we should have been more like Sweden. And I'm not saying Sweden is necessarily right, but from the beginning, my stance is you can't let the economy tank, and you have to go out there. The stats in the end, death rate is 0.3%, roughly 4 times deadlier than the flu. For me, that's not worth tanking an economy over, as long as there are enough beds to go around to the people who really need them. Finally, there's an article in the Daily Mail. Don't get triggered if you're a lefty. I know the Daily Mail is like a right-wing toe rag, right? But let's have a look at it. Let's have a look across the whole spectrum. They say Sweden has the highest coronavirus death rate per capita. The country refused to impose a lockdown and has seen 5.59 deaths for every million people per day on a rolling 7-day average. Aforementioned 7-day average, which isn't all that relevant because you have to look at the grand scheme of things, especially with Sweden, who've taken a different approach since the beginning. The article says that rate is an astonishing 11 times higher than the world average of 0.49 deaths for every million people. But hold on a minute. Okay, it's 11 times higher. The world average is 0.49 deaths, but that's brought down by a lot of other countries, so it's difficult to compare it to the world average. However, 5.59 deaths for every million people. Okay, imagine I give you a huge fucking vat full of Reese's Pieces, right? And they're all fucking typical colour, brown, yellow and orange. But then I say, there are 1 million Reese's Pieces in here, but 5 of them are blue. They're not the regular colour, and if you take that out, you have to eat it, and it's full of cyanide. It's full of coronavirus. You're gonna die. But if you take out the other ones, the other Reese's Pieces, you basically get to keep your job. What would you do? I wouldn't feel that scared about putting my hand into a vat of 1 million Reese's Pieces when only 5 of them are going to kill me. So that number, when you just look at it and take it at face value, 5.5 deaths every million people. I wouldn't say Sweden is really the hellscape that some people with their agenda are making it out to be. There's a graph here, rolling 7-day average. Even when you take this 7-day average, it doesn't tell you the whole story. It doesn't really look that bad, right? Sweden is the blue one. Look, Sweden has been going down also, and it kind of gone up a little bit here, but that is not total and utter failure like we read before. So maybe Sweden ain't all that bad. That's all I'm saying. So go and do a bit of research yourself. And as always, let me know in the comments what you think about Sweden. I love it when you leave me comments. I love chatting with you guys. I love you. So finally for today, SimCity 2000 music. So we're really going to switch things up now. This is a completely different part of the show. So I played some video game music on a previous show from Castlevania, and I was just jamming along to it and chatting shit. And it was really fun. And you seem to like it. So I've got some other music for you now. This is really fucking random. You will have never heard this before. And I think I might be clouded by nostalgia. And actually, you might think this is garbage. But anyways, come over to my screen and I'm going to show you this. So I need to give you a bit of background. SimCity, you might have heard that game. SimCity, it's a world building game where you build a city. Simple. And it's quite deep. And I remember when I was a little kid, my dad used to take me into his office because my parents divorced and I used to see my dad on the weekend. And he was obviously really hard working at the time. So he'd take me into his office and it was full of the fastest Power Macs. And I was just a little kid. And we used to use all the Power Macs and play games, me and my brother. And I remember playing this game and the music just really stayed with me. And a lot of this old school cool music is often composed by women, I think. There's a few of them who work for Sega as well, which is quite interesting. And I just think the music is really cool. So this is really fucking old school. Look at this old Mac OS. And I'm going to play it and talk you through the game because I love this game. I'll get mad nostalgic. But I'm also going to talk about the tunes a little bit. I mean, we can just run through some of the tunes. So I'll flick through some of it. I'll flick through some of it quickly from the beginning. Have a look at this. So this is the title screen. And I remember the title screen music. Let's have a listen. That's so quiet. So these sounds are all MIDI sounds. MIDI is a general standard communication protocol that allows devices to communicate with each other over time. And there are MIDI sounds built into the protocol. And this is what they sound like. So they're very kind of basic and kind of shitty sounding, I guess you could say, but they've got a certain quality to them. And some top producers like Pharrell Williams, he used so many of these MIDI sounds. So they have this, they're kind of kitsch, and even though they're shitty, they're kind of cool is what I'm trying to say. So very jazzy, this opening theme tune. I'm getting so nostalgic now. What do you think? Is it just me? Am I wearing rose-tinted specs? Rose-tinted headphones? Man, as soon as I'd hear this boot up, I was in my dad's office with my brother, building city, building worlds. Innocent times. Well, let's go to the next song. Here we go. This used to come on when some bad shit happened. Although it's called Happy Land. Kind of blues one with a walk-in bass line. I remember it so clearly. The music used to just come on at random when you were building shit. Sometimes it was linked to something, but other times it was completely random. And it really helped to kind of add to the dynamics of the experience. This is like a really happy one. This is called Selfish Citizen. So all the names have no bearing on actually the tone of the music. Much more minimalist. Someone's got to sample this shit. Come on. Is it going to be me? This one's called Buildings. It's a really... Let's go to the next one. Key of Success. I remember this. This has a really weird sample. That sounds like Jaws. This is menacing. It's called Key of Success. So the name is kind of seems optimistic, but the sound is not. And that metallic hi-hat. This is so fucking old school. Not with these aesthetic sounds, but that composition, those notes, that could actually be a chart song right now in hip-hop. Or it's maybe a bit more of an old school one. I could hear Eminem rapping over that. For sure, for sure. I could hear some Dr. Dre Eminem shit from back in the day to this. Next one's called Work, Work, Work. I used to love this one. Smooth. Oh shit. Yeah. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, man. This is sick. It can't just be the nostalgia. There's so much to it. Oh, come on, man. This is the one for me. Work, 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 this one's called. Next one, Tax and Money. So this is probably going to be really happy when it shouldn't. I bet you it is. Oh, classic one. Come on! Whoever, oh fuck, I'm lost for words. Whoever's composing this, smashed it. Smashed it. Player shit. And I remember like the sun used to go down. So there's no more sun through the blinds, the fucking noir style blinds of my dad's office. And this was like a night tune, man. This would come on and you just feel, you play this game for hours, man, and you'd be like, right, sun's gone down, I'm in it for the late shift. You didn't want to go home, but you'd had to, because my dad had to go to work the next day. But this is a fucking tune. Banger. It's a long one as well. So right, next one, Construction. I remember this one, just because of that weird vulture sample. I'm guessing that was also a sample, part of the MIDI General Library, I think it was called. There was 3 MIDI libraries. I think they're called GM sounds. Yeah, General MIDI 1, General MIDI 2, General MIDI 3. And MIDI's broken down into blocks of 127. And so there were 127 sounds in each bank. Yeah, so this is kind of creepy, this one, but it's cool. Next one, Growing Uptown. Very literal. It's like drum and bass, mate. Fucking drum and bass, mate. I could scratch my ass off to this. Not scratch my ass, literally, but I'd be like, I want to get on the deck, man. I'll scratch the shit out of this. It's like Little Mermaid and drum and bass, mate. Huh? Yeah? Yeah? Come on now! You can't tell me this isn't good. I'm so excited. I'm like slurring my speech. Man, I had some good memories, man. Do you know what I was thinking today? The reason I love games so much, it's not the singular experience, it's the social experience. It's because all my memories are memories of discovery with my brother who I love. I fucking miss you, mate, so much. And that's what it's all about. So that's why I get hyped. I remember spending time with my dad. He opened up this world of fun for me, and comparing what we'd done on the game with my brother. This is a banger. We think we've done this one. Oh shit. And last one, Melancholic Mayor. I bet it's gonna be happy. I told you! I remember this. It's like a nurse, it's like a lullaby. Remember this. Those MIDI strings, mate. Well good. Shit. Come on, let's do it! Fuck off, you cannot tell me that ain't good. Honestly, tell me in the comments, am I completely brainwashed by nostalgia? If I am, that's going to be really interesting. But I swear it's actually quite good. If it weren't, I wouldn't be into it so much. I swear down. I swear down. So look, let's have a quick look at the game. So if you haven't seen it, you know what it is. I'm going to get mad hyped. So you start off with this little plot of land. You can actually kind of, you can start off and design it. If it's all flat with no water, that's mad cheating because you can build so much shit and get loads of money. So it's better to do it realistic. And I think this guy's going to put shitloads of trees on it. Look, he's what's he got? This is raising the land. See, we talked about the movie loads of trees. We talked about the movie Free Solo yesterday, climbing cliffs and shit. You can make those cliffs. You can make your very own El Capitan from Yosemite Park. Or you can make a K2. Actually, you can't, because you can't put snow on it. And K2 has snow. But anyways, look, creative stuff. This is nice. And now you can hear the music with actual gameplay, so you get a feel for how it works. Look, you can make something like that with no land and have a little cute one. So it's such a sandbox game. It's one of the first great sandbox games, SimCity. SimCity 2000 was wicked, though. The one before that wasn't as good for me. So look. Taxes. This teaches little kids about taxes and shit. Bond payments, police department, fire department, how it all works. It didn't really rub off me, though, because you know my political rants are just completely rambling. I do my best for you, though. And look, you get this newspaper shit. It's really, really cool. There's loads of cool little touches in this game. They put loads of effort into it. So up here on the left, you got the green for building residential. You got the blue for commercial. And you got the yellow for industrial. And you need all three to succeed. You need this one, which he's just clicked on. You need and you need a power station. He's gone for nuclear. That's balls deep. If you have bad pollution, it fucks you up. So now he's going for residential. There's light and heavy. And they both look different. And they do different things. So you get more money, basically, from... or I think you just get more of a dense population for heavy residential. And I love all the little icons. All the icons are really cute and well done. And he's got it on super fast speed. His power station is blown up, which is ridiculous. You can turn that shit off. I don't know how that happened. And he's basically... He's entered a fucking coronavirus looting apocalypse. But... the residential gives you population, and then the commercial, you do that and you get loads of money, and industrial provides jobs to people and shit. So you need all three, you need a balance. And there's a little church, you need a place of worship, or people get miserable. You don't want your people to get disenchanted, or they're going to start rioting. I don't know why his power plant's blowing up. And look, you've got to link it with roads, so the people, otherwise the people can't get to work. And you've got to link the power lines to the power plant in order to have power for everything. And you can only make so much of these buildings with one power plant. So the better power plant you get, the more it's going to power. And see, there's loads of different ones. In the beginning, you can't afford them. So you have to build up slowly. And again, look at the icons. Really colourful, kind of, bright colours. Really nice. Let's skip it on a bit. See, look, now he's thriving. It's a bit fast. You can't really see people moving around. The roads get congested, so you've got to build freeways. You need a sewage system and shit. Like, it's really, really deep. And look at the cool graphics. I just remember being mesmerised by this as a kid. It still holds up, doesn't it? Look at it. Looks really inviting. It's kind of very flattering to the eye. And then the hills, you can build roads up the hills and shit. I'm not sure you can ever flatten it once it's there. And with the tunes, it's perfect. This is a little recreation area down here. There's some recreation stuff you can build, I think. He's got it on so fast, it's kind of a little bit annoying. You want it a bit slower than that. You want to enjoy it. It's like savouring your food. You want to savour the growth of your city. And let's flick it on. Okay, so this is cool. You need water pipes and shit. And this means your city's getting advanced. And I remember looking at that back in the day. And that graphics really blew me away. Don't laugh, but the kind of cool water and shit, it just something about it really stoked the fires of my imagination. And look, he's building this lattice of water pipes, and you need a desalinization plant so you can get drinking water to your people and all this kind of stuff. You need police to take care of crime. and you need various things. So the guy's expanding at a rapid rate. You got bridges and shit, which is really cool. You got airports, that brings in some really good shit. I can't remember. And look, you got the industry down here. What's thriving? Tourism, media, automotive, construction. It's a really fucking cool little game. And then when you go into the future, you get these really cool things called arcologies. And this is the last thing I want to show you from the game before we call it a night. So arcologies are these big self-contained cities. And there was 4 of them in this game. And once you got these, there was nothing more you could get. It was the apex of the game. And they were really, really fucking cool. So there's going to be commentary on this. I'm going to turn that off because this guy's going to be annoying probably. So have a look at these arcologies, right? This guy's going to drop a few. No doubt he is at some point. These graphics look a bit worse. I don't know what he's playing on. So, oh man, this guy's a bit of a cunt though. Okay, so this is one arcology. It's like a self-contained city, and seeing that as a kid was so fucking cool. It's got a kind of it's got a green area at the top, which is loads of trees and stuff, which is kind of relevant to today. They put trees on the side of buildings and shit, and they probably would make something like that nowadays, but probably a little bit less space age looking. But that's only... Okay, hold up. So these are the arcologies. This is the first one. I like this. It's like something from Blade Runner. It's really dystopian, called the Plymouth Arco. So loads of people can go in there. You get a big population in a small space, and it just helps your city. Then the Forest Arco. Then Darko. It's very creative. But there's one more, which has a huge bubble on top. And I used to love that one so much. And this wanker is not even going to show it. So if you bear with me... do you know what? I'm going to have to find it on Google. Arcologies, SimCity 2000. But one day we might need to do this, right? Already the population's too much. You can't even go to a fucking Starbucks in Tokyo, where I live, without queuing your ass off. Maybe we're going to need these things. We're going to have to go vertical. So this is the best arcology in the game. If you have a look at my screen. This motherfucker, you get this right at the end of the game. And this really inspired me. I always imagined... I tried to write a science fiction novel, and I literally wrote about this in my novel. I think it's really cool. So look, what do you think of the music of SimCity 2000? Am I being nostalgic? Am I just rose-tinted? Is it genuinely good? And what do you think of the game? So, my friends, that is about it for this edition, this special Super Sunday edition of the Johnny Massacre Show. As I said, make sure to leave the comments, because I really, really like it when you do that. And that's about it for today. I've been Johnny Massacre, and I tell you what, mate, you better be back for the next video, because otherwise I'll be coming around your ass. Make sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, because that's what all those other cunts tell you to do. Laters.